Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. I'm Reed Price. I'm the director of the center, and we're going to be talking today with our Kitsap County Assessor, Phil Cook. We'll get to a discussion about assessments and not assessments, not appraisals, and and where we are in the tax world and how those assessments of our property affect our property taxes, and what you can do to learn more about what your property is valued at, and if you have a difference of opinion about that, what you can do about that. Before we do, though, I want to thank Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island for sponsoring these programs. We meet a few times every week on Something to Talk About and cover a variety of topics, and we're grateful for Fieldstone providing support for that. They offer independent living, assisted living, and memory care facilities up on Rolling Bay. They have a beautiful campus there right around the corner from Bay Hay. You can take a tour and they treat you to a meal, lunch or dinner. Call Randy or Jamie and they'd like to show you around. 206-594-1010. Or you can always just check out their website at fieldstonecommunities.com. And we live on the beautiful lands and waters that the Suquamish people have lived on for centuries, since time immemorial. We are grateful for their stewardship of these lands and waters of the Salish Sea, and we are doing our best to learn from them to be good stewards as well. Phil, I saw an announcement that came out from your office that indicated that pretty soon here, people might start to see new information from the assessor's office in their mailbox. So that's a pretty regular thing from your office. And so I thought, well, it's death and taxes. And although you're not responsible for the taxes, you are responsible for helping the tax get set. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you, Reed, for having me. Thank you for everybody who's online with us today and participating. It's always greatly appreciated to have an audience that wants to learn and be better informed about what we do, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what the role of the assessor's office is and what we do. And I always love the common comment that we see online about that, well, the county clearly wants more tax revenue. That's why they're raising assessed values. And that's not how it works in Washington State. Washington State's different than a lot of other states. We have a budget-based property tax system. So it's not a rate-based system, it's a budget-based. And what that means is the taxing districts establish a budget each year of how much they need to tax and meet their operational requirements. And the function of the assessor is to figure out how to equitably distribute that obligation. And the voters and the citizens of each taxing district play a pivotal role, because they vote for the representatives in those taxing districts, whether it's school board members or fire commissioners or whatever. They vote for those, and those are the people who are making those decisions on how much to tax. And then oftentimes these districts will reach out to the voters and ask for additional funds, maybe for schools or for fire or whatever it may be. Those are the two most common here in Kitsap that tend to ask for additional money. And so our job is to really administer the will of the people and what their decisions are when it comes to those elections, and how do we equitably distribute that tax burden. And in Washington State, the mechanism for doing that is assessed values. So our primary function is to establish an assessed value on all the taxable property within the county. So in Kitsap County, there's roughly about 122,000 parcels in the county. Of that, a little over 119,000 of them are taxable. We have some various things like government buildings and stuff that are on parcels that aren't taxable, and some other outliers there. But of the taxable parcels, is we have to figure out how you equitably just spread that tax burden. And you just take the number of parcels for a taxing district and divide it and equally distribute it. In Washington State, the answer is no. It's based off the value of the home. So the more valuable a property is, the larger share of the tax burden that they'll pay. And that shifts yearly, because as the market changes, the assessed value tends to follow. what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a lot of time today sharing information that's on our website. So I can show you all this information and where these tools are that we publish. And that way, if you have questions, you can actually find it right on our website. You can always ask here today, but once this presentation concludes, you could find them online, and or contact our office. We're always happy to talk with our constituents, and then the public about what we do.
So
Um,
I just thought I might mention here that everybody to some degree has a little different of a pie about how the what we how our taxes are calculated, because
right.
in addition to just the county, there are also, as you sort of hinted at, different school districts, different fire districts, different bond measures that affect different groups of
Mhm.
property owners. So um, the county is part of that. We do help fund the county, but it's not the biggest share of what we fund.
It's not. In fact, so there are 40 different taxing districts in Kitsap County. So that's the state, that's the county, that's each of the cities, that's the 6 school districts and fire districts. That's the port districts, that's the library districts. Bainbridge, you guys have a parks district. And so all of those make up those 40 different districts. And then from there, they each have their own different jurisdictional boundaries where what parcels, what do they cover within the county. So for like fire districts, they're different. Bainbridge is a little unique because you are an island, and so parks, the city, the fire, they're all limited to the island. So that does help to define it fairly well. But the other districts are not uniform like that. So like the school districts are various shapes and have various sizes, but the fire districts don't align with the school districts. So they're also different. And so you have a variety of examples where maybe you're in XYZ school district and ABC fire district, but your neighbor across the street might be in a different school district or a different fire district and such. And so we have to look at all of that. And so our primary function is to establish an assessed value on all the taxable property every year. And we have certain rules that we have to adhere by with the state of Washington and how we do that. And so I'm going to start sharing my screen here, and I'm going to rely on you guys to kind of give me thumbs up to make sure you can see everything, because well, last thing I want to have happen is it not work right. So okay, so is our website showing up?
It looks like yes, we are now
So,
seeing the property inspection schedule assessment years, 6-year cycle.
oh, you're seeing the map.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to pull that over here. You know what? Let me try to fix something here. I've got multiple screens up, and sometimes that can cause a little management challenge here. So hopefully that didn't
Right.
mess up something there. So you're looking at, okay, our um, property inspection map right now,
Correct, with the
correct? Okay.
schedule.
So we have Kitsap County broken down into 6 different geographical areas. So you can see it's is 1 through 6. And each year we physically inspect 1/6 of the county with our appraisers. So our office is a staff of 24, and of that 24, 13 are appraisers. So, and of the 13 appraisers, 10 are residential and 3 are commercial. And so those appraisers are tasked with meeting the state's requirements of physically inspecting each parcel once every 6 years. And so what that means is we have to send our appraisers out. They're going to put eyes on each parcel. And the reason we have to do that is because a lot can happen within a 6-year timeline. A property could deteriorate significantly. It could be improved upon. Any number of things could happen, and that impacts the value of that property. And the reality is, if every parcel sold every couple years, then this would be a lot easier to do. But the fact is that most properties don't sell every year, and they don't sell over the course of several years. And most people probably on this call have owned their home several years or longer. So what is it worth? And so we have to establish that for tax distribution purposes. And so this year we concluded Area 3. We started the physical inspections back in September, and they concluded in March, early April. And then once we have all that data, we're able to analyze it and make determinations on what the correct values should be. And then by law, we have to inform the taxpayers if that assessed value is going to be changing up or down. If it stays the same, we don't have to send out a notification for that. Um, that being said, even though Area 3, which you can see on the map here, was Kingston, Hansville, as well as the urban area of Port Orchard.
Yeah, if you could
Uh,
scroll down just a little bit, we're just
sure,
seeing the
sure.
top of it.
In fact, let's close that and then maybe you can see area. Can you see it there?
No, it's just static for some reason. Anyway,
Oh,
I can see that just the top
static,
of
huh?
Bainbridge Island, which says that the assessment year for
Let's
us is
let me.
2028.
How about if I put it right here? Does that help? Does
Phil,
that work?
yeah, that.
Now it's
Very
working
nice.
now. So I'm juggling multiple displays here, and for whatever reason, Zoom doesn't necessarily like that.
Okay, yeah, we got a
So
nice map now.
okay, so that map, so you can see that. So up here is Hansville, Kingston, and Indianola areas up to around Gamble Bay, and then we also include the urban area of Port Orchard and McCormick Woods as part of that Area 3 inspection area. So we concluded that in early spring, and the notifications to them went out here last Friday. But then we still have the rest of the county that we have to analyze based off the market activity, based off sales going on throughout the entire county. We have to analyze all that activity and then also make changes to those based off of we do a statistical analysis of the sales data and make determinations on what changes should be for particular areas. So as I mentioned, we had about 122,000 parcels in the county. This year was one of our lowest years of value change notices being mailed. At least it is in my tenure. And we only sent out 27,172 value change notices. So not very many. That's what, about 22% or so, maybe? Um, of that 27,000, though, we had 21,408 were in that inspection area. So that Area 3 inspection, Kingston, Hansville, and Port Orchard. So that was the vast majority. Then we had 2,049 commercial value notices that were also mailed. And then the remaining 3,700 or so were for the rest of the county. So just on the surface there, you can get an idea that the vast majority of the county did not change in their assessed value here in 2025. So I'm going to I'm going to show you something here. You should see a valuation timeline chart.
Yep.
Yep, perfect. So this is kind of the why we do this. So by law, we have to establish a value as of January 1st of this year. And when we're doing our sales analysis, we are looking at the prior year's sales. So you can see we're looking at from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. So we're looking at a much different timeline than a fee appraiser would be looking at. So if you were to buy a home today or you to refinance your home today and you had to have an appraisal done by a fee appraiser, they're going to look for comparable sales that are 3 months, maybe 4 months old, maybe as far back as the most recent 6 months. We're not looking at that. So the value notice you received here in June is based off of our determination of value as of January 1st of this year, based off comparable sales and data from calendar year 2024. Okay. So we are very much a trailing indicator of what's going on in our market. And this is universal across Washington state. So this is not exclusive to Kitsap. This is a Washington state. This is the Washington state process. So when you receive that value change notice, it's our value as of January 1st, 2025, based off of sales comparables that could go back to January 1st, 2024. So that's why I say we're that lagging indicator of what your property is worth. We're not a good representation of what the here and now is. And the way I like to explain it to people in a simple format is that think of like a roller coaster. And in a roller coaster, you got the front car and you got the back car of the roller coaster. And they're all going to see the same ups and downs, but they see it at different times. of the ride. So the front car is the actual market. That's the here and now. That is what is happening today. That's what your real estate agents, the real estate professionals can tell you what is going on today. We're not good at telling you what's going on today. We're good at analyzing what has happened and then making those adjustments based off that. So we're like the rear car of the roller coaster. Your assessed value is still gonna see those increases that the current market is seeing, but at a different time. So we're not going to notify you about it until a year to 18 months later, based off the time of year it is and this chart. So we have to send out that value change notice to you here this summer, which is what people just got. And then that does a couple things. One, that starts a 60-day timeline for taxpayers to appeal that value if they believe it's wrong. So they can file an appeal with the Board of Equalization, and they have to provide documentation or evidence as to why the assessor is wrong. And they have to adhere to the same timeline that we're looking at. You can't use current information to justify a change. You have to look at that same timeline we had to look at. And then a hearing would be scheduled later this year, the beginning of next year, to have it heard. If someone brings us evidence as to why it's wrong, maybe we have some characteristics of the property incorrect, something has changed, maybe it's deteriorated significantly since the last time we were out there, and we don't know that. Like I said, we're only inspecting 1/6 of the county. We'll just make the correction. So we rely on the public to utilize our parcel details tool that's on our website, where you can look up all the property characteristics about your home and look at that, and then contact us and let us know if something's wrong so we can just make the changes. If it's just a disagreement on the value, it has nothing to do with the characteristics, all that is correct, then it goes to a citizen panel. We'll hear the argument as to why it's wrong, and they'll make a decision on that. And if depending on the outcome of that, if you don't like that outcome, then there's always the option and the mechanism to appeal to the State Board of Tax Appeals. And that takes a couple of years to get through that process. But it is an option available for those who want to go that route. Now, the value notice that we send out, you can see here back on the chart, that value is used because we can take the total value then for each taxing district, and now that we have it established for each property, and then we can use that when we do the calculations in the fall. The taxing districts have to send our office their approval of a budget and how much they want to tax. So they'll usually pass a resolution at the fire district or the city council or whatever it is, and they'll pass a resolution of how much they want to tax. Then they send that to our office. We validate it to make sure that they meet the letters of the law and make sure that they can actually tax you the amount that they're wanting to tax you based off of the assessed value and other tools and requirements and restrictions that are set in place in Washington state law. We do that in the fall. That's done between October and December. And then in January, once everything's all finalized for all those districts, we will certify it. And then it gets sent to the treasurer's office, and the treasurer's office will get the tax statements prepared and mailed. And then that's what you receive usually around Valentine's Day. And then the first half taxes are due April 30th and second half due in October 31st of next year. So we're sending you out a value notice right now for tax calculations for taxes that will be payable in 2026 based off of an assessed value as of January 1st, 2025, based off of data and comparables from as far back as January 2024. So hopefully this visual helps to kind of paint that picture of a timeline that it's basically up to, well, over 2 years in the process for us to do that. And so every year that process is done to keep it very consistent and steady. So what happens is if you have a upward moving market that is going very fast and appreciating quickly, then you'll see a bigger gap between market value and the assessed value. And same thing when it reverses, the actual market value may be lower than the assessed value because we're trailing behind up to that 2 years and following what the market is doing.
Right. And that can be painful in the downward market because it looks like your property is worth more than you could sell it for. And you're
It
getting
could be
taxed at that
right.
higher value.
It could be perceived as being painful, but the thing is, there are a lot of people forget that is if all properties were going up or down the same percentage, the obligation is still going to stay about the same. Um, it's how it's distributed. Is if your property appreciates at 25%, but your neighbors or someone else on the island only appreciates at 5%, then that creates what's called a tax shift. And what that means is more of the burden will shift to the property that appreciated significantly more in that given year. And then the one that didn't go up as much will pay less of an increase for that year. But then it all ends up working itself out as homes, this group goes up, and then this year this group goes up, and it kind of stair steps each other up or down, and it kind of keeps it so the pendulum just constantly kind of keeps moving back and forth. Now, where that changes a little bit is when it comes to exemptions. So our office administers a variety of property tax exemptions for the state of Washington. And when a property goes exempt and they're released from having to pay a portion of that property tax up to almost all of it, the taxes don't go away. They just shift to everybody else and all the other properties that didn't get an exemption. So that means everybody else pays a little bit more as a result. And so that happens pretty regularly. We have a variety of exemptions. In fact, I'm going to share. Let's see. Does this web page show up now?
Yep. Now
That's
we
our
that's your
main
web page.
website. So this is our main website, and it on here it's going to show you can find a variety of our exemptions that we offer. So under services here.
Let me just say for people who might not have their camera on or listening to
Oh,
audio, it's kitsap.gov/assessor.
yeah.
And then Phil is looking at something that says services.
So
Drop
you
down.
click on the services tab at the top, and then there's a property tax relief programs. And you can click on that, and then you'll see a list of the various different exemptions that our office administers to the state. And you will also notice on our website, on most pages on the right side, you will always see a list of the laws and rules that are applicable to the things that we have to do. And so you can click on those, and that will take you to a direct link to the RCW or the WAC so that you can get a further understanding. A lot of times people like to question, why do we do it this way? Well, here's the law that says why we have to do it this way. So our most popular exemption is our senior citizen and disabled persons exemption. That program has seen some changes here in Kitsap in recent years. And the biggest increase to the income requirements were in 2024, for the 2024 year, I should say. Prior to 2024, the income limit in Kitsap was $48,574. Actually, let's just see. Where would we click on that? Sorry, here. Maybe it's that one. There we go. So in 2023, the program topped out at 48,574 of combined household income. And in 2023, the legislature changed the law that expanded the income limits, and Kitsap saw one of the largest increases of any of the counties in the state. And in 2024, our income limit went up to $65,000. So a significant increase, significant bump. We saw a significant increase in application volume as a result of that. In fact, we went from, I want to say it was 789 applications in 2023 to 1,320 some odd in 2024. So it was about a 76% increase in application volume. And we were able to, our office, now I'm going to give my staff a pat on the back here, so please bear with me, but our office was able to absorb the additional workload without hiring any more staff to do it or increasing our budget to accommodate, because we Once we knew about the law change, we took a step back and re-examined our workflow processes and how we were administering the program. And we deployed some technology improvements and just redesigned our workflows to be able to accommodate the increase in workload. And we were able to stay current throughout the year. What I deem to be current is in a reasonable timeline and able to respond within a couple of weeks rather than several months like other counties were taking to get this done. And so much so that we were notified last week, we actually won an award from the National Association of Counties, an achievement award for our workflow processes and improvements to the administration of this particular program. So that was exciting because I thought it's nice to get recognition for the staff of the great things that they're doing to help our citizens here in Kitsap.
That's
Um,
so that's your 2020, and congratulations. That's your 2024 income threshold. When and how do you decide the 2025?
So it stays the same. So it's reevaluated now by the state every 3 years. So 2024 was the change. This will be the income threshold for, again, this year and next year. And then it'll change again in 2027. And only way it changes outside that is if the legislature makes a change. But we kind of have a formula established with the legislature and a timeline that makes it a lot easier for assessors to administer on a schedule rather than just on a whim. And so right now it's set to change in 2027. I don't know what that'll be, but the calculation is a percentage of, right now it's 70% of county median income is the income threshold. There is talk about changing that to 80% and or a variety of other things, but that's up to the legislature, and until they've done it, this is what it is. So I'm going to back here to this page where it's the list of all of the senior exemption. On here, there at the bottom, you can see we have some videos, links to videos that explain a little bit more about the program, as well as here's a list of prior changes to the program going back to 2020, and then the laws and rules for the program and how we administer it. But then at the top, this is one of the tools we deployed last year. It was our first time utilizing an online application tool for the program. So what this allows applicants to do is to apply online and from the comfort of their own homes and upload any required documentation directly to us in a secure environment. So they don't have to send stuff through the mail. They don't have to come all the way down here to Port Orchard and wait in line to do this. If they are somewhat computer savvy, they can do it from the comfort of their home, or maybe they have a friend or a family member that can assist in that process. And so last year, over 40% of our new applications came in electronically through this tool on this portal. And we took the application process that the state requires us to do and then simplified it by the application will adjust based off how you answer the questions. So if you answer yes or no, then it'll ask you the next appropriate question based off that answer. So it doesn't ask you to answer things that you may know nothing about. Like one of the questions we have to ask is, do you have railroad pension income? Well, most people, if they don't have railroad pension income, they probably don't know what that is. So we don't go into the details of that if you answer no, because why? It doesn't matter. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Let's not confuse applicants with information about things that they don't need to know or know anything about. So that's the online application. Please feel free to take. I can walk you through that if you'd like to see it. But it's right on our website at kitsap.gov/assessor, and then just look for the senior disabled exemption page, and you will find that. So again, it's under services, and look under exemptions, and then you'll see senior citizen persons with disabilities exemption program. It's on the right side. Now, once you're on the program, there is the requirement to renew every 4 years. And the reason for that is we have to validate that someone is qualified to be on the program and basically should be receiving that benefit. And the reason goes back to, if you remember, I said a few minutes ago, I was saying it creates a tax shift. Those that aren't on the program, they're paying more of the tax burden because of someone getting an exemption. So we have to protect the tax-paying public. So if someone's receiving an exemption, everybody else is picking up that slack and covering that for them. So we have to ensure that it's being done equitably and fairly, and that the rest of the tax-paying public is not overpaying or something like that. So that's the part of our job that most people don't realize. The assessor is actually responsible for protecting the taxpayers, not just from other taxpayers who are trying to get an exemption, but also from the taxing districts that are trying to capitalize maybe how much revenue they can then create. And every tax district has to go through that process through our office, including the county. The county is not an exception. So we make them submit to us as well, and we have to approve that. In fact, I'm going to go back to something here, back to taxes here a little bit. And I'm going to pull up this page. You should see a pie chart now.
Yep, we do.
And that pie chart is a representation of the tax burden for 2025 and how it's distributed across the county. So this is county-wide. This is not specific to any particular area. Maybe that helps a little bit zooming in. So the vast majority of the property taxes goes to K-12 education in Kitsap County. So you see state school is just under 28%. So that's the money that goes to the state that gets redistributed to the school districts from the state. And then there's the local voter approved portion, which is the burgundy colored down on the bottom right. That's 27.41%. So those two combined is about 56%. And that is the K-12 property tax obligation that taxpayers pay to fund K-12 education across the state. Then you will see on the top, on the left, about the 10 o'clock position is fire districts are about 18.42% of the property tax obligation. So between K-12 education and fire districts, that's about 3/4 of the property tax bill for everybody in Kitsap County. And then it breaks down from there. You can see the library is 3.28%, cities are 5.3%, and so forth. The county current expenses at the bottom there, that's about the 7 o'clock position, that creamish yellow color. So that 7.42%, that's what covers the count. That's a chunk of the county's general fund. And of that, 40% of that covers the sheriff's office and the jail. So 40% of the county general fund is the sheriff's office and their operation. And then the bulk of the county general fund is not only funding the sheriff, but also law and justice as a whole. So the courts, the prosecutor, sheriff, the jail, and so forth. And included in that would be some of our general fund operations, like our office is a very small piece of that pie. The treasurer's office, certain aspects of the auditor's office, and so forth.
Now, Phil, this is a picture of the average across the whole county, right?
Correct.
So
yeah,
for
if we want to
example,
look up a specific one to Bainbridge, we can do that.
I mean, that's, yeah, so that you have those tools available on your website.
I do. So the page I'm showing you is a static page as part of our assessment book that we publish every January. And I'm not going to scroll through the various pages because it could be a little overwhelming for each of you to if you scroll, sometimes people get.
There are probably some people who love long lists of numbers. Others,
yeah, there's
appreciate
lots of
the
numbers
pie.
on here, but I'm not going to go through all that. But let me go back to our website, and I will show you. If you're on our website and you want to learn about that, you go to the resources tab. And why is it not moving? Oh, well, you go to assessment books.
Okay.
And you can see all the assessment books back to the year 2004. So you can look at 20 years worth of values and how the districts are all calculated. Now, if you want to see something real time, let me show you that. So here, this is our real time property tax distribution page, and this shows property taxes. There we go. Seems to be a little bit of a lag going on here, but we can pull up if someone wants to volunteer me an address on Bainbridge Island. I'm happy to pull up. It's got to be a taxable property. I'm happy to pull up someone specific, but If nobody on here wants to volunteer, that's fine. I can, but you can look at this and then you can do a side-by-side comparison and look how the values have changed, or I'm sorry, the tax burden has changed over the last few years. So that is a tool that's also available online within parcel details. Or it's also right on the front page of the treasurer's page.
So you put your address in here and it will show you what the pie chart looks like for,
The pie chart will adjust to your specific property that you enter. And then you can see a breakdown for the last 4 years of where the tax obligation is going. That is something that is available through the county.
yeah, I think that's a helpful kind of way to recognize, okay, like for example, here you had said the last time we talked, on Bainbridge Island, we don't get taxed for county roads because we get taxed for city roads.
Right. Yeah, you have a city fund. And so the road fund's not applicable because that's for unincorporated county roads.
But if I live in Suquamish or unincorporated Kitsap County, I'm not going to pay for the Bainbridge Island City Council.
Correct. You're not paying the Bainbridge Island city taxes, but you're paying the road fund instead. And so, yeah, there are certain districts that cover the whole county, like the state K-12 is every taxable parcel in the county, as well as the county's current expense, the one I was talking about that's mostly allocated towards the sheriff. And then you got like the library district and the PUD. Those are countywide. So, and now I am also going to take a step backwards here real quick.
Okay.
Because we have another tool that is specific to the assessor's page that is something like this. And let's see if we can get that to work. And this is our sales trend page of what the housing market is doing in Kitsap County. And so this is almost real time. This is 2025 sales processed up through April of this year that we publish online, and it goes back to 2014. This defaults to this is the average sales price of a single family residence. So this does not include condominiums or townhomes or any commercial properties. This is just single family residences. And so you can see what the average change is in sales price over the last decade. But then on the map on the left here, you can click on a specific zip code. So I'm going to click on Bainbridge, and you can see how the data adjusts. And so what you can look at by this chart is that the average single family residence on Bainbridge Island has not seen a significant change in sales price in the last couple of years. So you can hover over this and you'll get the little bubble that will give you the more refined number than what's rounded at the top. In the bottom right here, you will see the number of sales in Bainbridge Island, or I should say on Bainbridge Island during those years. And so you can see like last year there were 309 sales of single family residences, and this year we're at 68 so far. And that's the first 4 months of this year. And so this is updated as we complete processing of all the sales for a given month. So this is available right on our website. If you go to, let's see here, right up here, I want to go back to our main page, but it's right up here at the top where you'll see sales trends, and that will pull up that chart. So now the one other thing I did speak to earlier on is about parcel details, and that is our mechanism for sharing. Oops, what did I do there? I'm going to just click on that where you can look up a specific property. And I'm just going to pull up something that's in Kitsap. I just happen to know the address off the top of my head. But you can look up, it's all a matter of public record, but you can look up information about land and location. You can even see the last time one of our appraisers was at that property. But you can look up some of the specific information that we have, the buildings information, you know, the construction quality, the condition of it, the year it was built, square footage. We have this for every parcel online. So you're welcome to go look up your house.
And this is exactly what you were saying. If you've got something wrong and I see that actually, you have 3 bedrooms and I don't, that I can tell you
right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so what will happen is if the most common challenge is the condition rating that because we're only looking at the outside of a home, we're making a judgment call on the condition of the inside of the home based off what we see on the outside. And the reason we can do that is it's it would be unusual for someone to maintain the interior of the home and not the exterior or vice versa. You don't see someone who keeps the exterior of their home in just outstanding condition and the interior is just dilapidated or has a lot of problems. It's usually within an acceptable range where it's about the same. Unless you have a one-off incident, maybe a tree fell through the home or something like that. And we want to know about that too, because then that leads to a reduction in the assessed value if you've had damage, destroyed property is what we call it. There is an exemption for that that we apply that reduces the value until the home is repaired. So it reduces the tax burden as a result because the home's not worth what it would normally be worth because of the damage that has happened. And so in recent years, we've had flooding and water issues up in Hansville near the lighthouse. We had a lot of homes that were flooded when we had the king tides in December. We had a tornado one year down in Port Orchard that damaged several homes. But every winter we have chimney fires or we have, electrical fires or not unusual, gas leaks, or trees that fall on houses or whatever it may be, and we will issue that destroyed property exemption. If it makes the news, we know about it and we'll just make the change. If we don't know about it, this is where we rely on the public to inform us so that we can make that change. But parcel details will have all the information about your property. It will go into, we do publish a photo it's primarily for the appraisers as reference. So this is, you can see as a small little rambler out in the Seebeck area. And so then we do have a perimeter sketch. So this just shows the length of the exterior walls that you can see on here. There's no breakdown of where bedrooms are or the kitchen or the bathroom, anything like that. We do not publish anything like that. A lot of cases, we don't even have that. We are simply getting the measurements of the exterior perimeter of the house and then the garage. And in this case, it has a concrete patio and a wood deck. And so that information is also added as reference. So these are accessible by all of you to use and let us know if something's wrong. We
What's
also
the,
have,
oh, go
oh,
ahead.
yeah, go ahead, Reed.
I was just going to say, and if I do detect something, what's the best way to contact your office, your staff?
Well, you could email or call. Call is going to be the most direct. And we'd recommend you contact through Kitsap One. That's the 337-5777. And they will transfer you to us or try to help answer your questions. So Kitsap One is the county's phone answering service. And they try to answer the generic questions and those things because it allows our individual staffs then to focus on the unique things or the other responsibilities they have. So they're kind of like the front line of customer service. But they'll be more than happy to direct you to the office. If you happen to have an appraiser or someone's office number directly, you can reach them directly through that phone number, or you can email the office just at assessor@kitsap.gov. And that is our general email. And you just explain what's going on and the staff will get it to the appropriate person who will respond to you. I'd encourage you to make sure you put your phone number and how you want to be communicated in that email so that they know what's the best way to reach you. But also on parcel details, you'll see here, like here's a breakdown of the assessed value for the last several years and as well as the tax obligation. And then you can click on here and see for any 2 given years, this is a drop down. So you can compare all the way back to 2016 and do a side-by-side comparison of where are all the taxes going. That it's that pie broken down in a chart in a column format. Anything that is bold are directly voter approved taxes. And so like you can see here for this particular home, the voter approved taxes represent about 30% of the total tax obligation. And that's actually a low number because what this doesn't take into account are things like levy lid lifts. So when like your fire district asks for a levy lift, like this right here, like for example, this is in Central Kitsap Fire, and the voters approved an increase to the $1.50 statutory limit last year. You can see where it was $1.34 in 2024, and then in 2025 it was raised to $1.50 because the voters approved that. And our system doesn't extrapolate that difference as being voter approved, but it is. That was a voter approved increase as well of another about $60 on this house for this year. And we don't have a way of doing that. So for to give you kind of a real-time example, the library right here is currently at 27.44 cents per thousand of assessed value countywide. And they have an initiative on the ballot here for August that would raise that to, sorry, I'm drawing a blank now, if it's 35 or 39 cents. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I do know it's an increase of about 42% of their tax collection. I could look that up for you real quick and get you that information. That will be in our upcoming newsletter. We give people the factual information about what these requests are and what they mean. So on the, I think in our calculation on an average $600,000 home would be about an $82 increase if voter approved in August for collection in 2026. And so that's the kind of stuff that would not also that won't show up as voter approved on this page either, because of the fact that it's just a regular levy. It's not a separate, we just don't have the technology in our system, our software, to be able to extrapolate that from the regular portion. So I do like to tell people in all actuality, this is really the low end voter approved. It's probably closer to 50% that's actually voter approved. And so when people like to say, well, you just raise my tax obligation. No, the actual reality is it's the voters that really are the drivers of increases in property taxes based off the things that they vote for: schools, fire districts, library, whatever it may be. They vote, the majority of the voters have determined that those things are important to them and they want to fund them. And so, but this is a breakdown of that. And then that pie chart I was showing you, you can get to it right from right here. Property tax distribution, and that's where you pull up that pie chart and can type in your address and see how it breaks down specific to your property. So that's the kind of information we have online on parcel details. There's also sales when it's sold. We got some permit information if you're in unincorporated Kitsap and so forth. There is also a map. If you haven't seen that, well, let's just click on that real quick. The county does publish a map, and you can from there. This works on anywhere in the county. So like I said, this property specifically is out in the Seebeck, Lake Symington specifically. But you can click on imagery and you can kind of zoom in and see. This is hard to see. There's too many shadows, but there is a house in there. But you can see back years of imagery. So if you wanted to look at your house and go back all the way to 1994, it's not very good quality back then, but you can see it. But then the other thing that becomes helpful is seeing like critical areas. So here's a footprint of the house. There's no critical areas on that particular parcel, but you can see here's the lake. You can see here some of the creeks and streams and where they originate and how they run. So if that's something of concern that you're trying to look at, the county has that information available on the parcel map. And so you can kind of see where things go. County utilities might also be on there. Zoning, shoreline management. It just depends on what you're looking for. Some of this is specific to the unincorporated county because obviously the cities have some different rules and requirements.
So Phil, I have a question here from
Okay.
Beth. Beth, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I just want to make a comment, Phil, that I appreciate seeing that pie, because I think when we get our assessed value each year, not knowing all of this backstory, we kind of groan because it goes up every year. But when I see that pie, what I think of is the phrase, the common good. That's what we're supporting, is the common good. And right now in government, it seems like the common good is just getting trashed. But seeing the pie, I think, well, at least at the local level, we're still supporting that concept. So thank you.
Sure. And like I said, you're able to look up specific to your home so you can see where it's all going. The new tax bills do have that chart. It's a bar chart on it that shows a breakdown of where it's all going. But everybody, takes that information. Some people, pie charts easier to understand, bar charts. Sometimes it's like what we have in parcel details where it's just a list. So we try to provide different avenues so you can see it in different ways and what works best for you. So, but yeah. So we're trying to be as transparent as we can about where it all goes. But the common theme is most people will gripe and just say, well, the county wants more money. Well, you
Well,
can see very clearly
it's not
looking
the
at this,
county.
the
Yeah, I
county's
get it.
less
Thank
than
you.
8% of the tax bill. So it's not the county that's the driving force of it.
So,
Um,
I'm going to again say that one of the things we've talked about is having some folks from your office come to the center sometime in the next uh, few months and talk a little bit about the exemption programs for
Absolutely.
folks with seniors and disabilities and temporary abatement for people who are having, I guess, income challenges. Um, and so we will do that. And as you have said, your office is willing and ready to try to answer any questions people might have. I guess 360-337-5777. And I'm just going to see if there's anybody who has any other questions for our assessor.
And I have one more thing I'd like to
Liz,
share
do
with
you
you.
have a comment?
Read while we give people a second here to raise their hand.
Yeah.
If you would like to receive regular information from our office, we do publish a monthly newsletter now. We started this back in 2023. So if you're on kitsap.gov/assessor, on the right-hand side, you can sign up right there at that tab for the newsletter and any other county information you want to receive. But then below that, you can click and see all of our previous newsletters. We send that out the first of the month. It's an email. It could be a text, like here's our June newsletter, where we inform everybody about the change of value notice is coming. We will put pertinent links like the RCW that are relevant in there. Our July newsletter will talk about the upcoming election in August for the library and what that vote means. And that way we give you unbiased factual information so you can make the best informed decision on which way you want to vote. We notify you about new construction, and so you can. So this is our June newsletter that went out at the beginning of this month. So you can see that if you'd like. But we'd encourage people to sign up for that because we're not going to overwhelm you with information once a month, and we're going to send out gentle reminders for various things throughout the year just so that you're aware of it. We do partner with the library district, and once a quarter, the Paulsbo Library will invite us to come up and we do a presentation and hold meeting times with applicants for the senior and disabled persons exemption. And we're happy to come to Bainbridge Island Senior Center or any other group to speak either about the functions of our office or if we want to do specific to the exemption, we're happy to talk about that with anybody as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And one of the folks on the call says he's found your department to always be helpful and is happy to pay taxes to live in this state. So there you go. Thank you,
Well, I'm happy to
Hal.
hear the feedback, Hal. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to post this on youtube.com/BI Senior Center. So if you'd like to pass this on to somebody else, that's how they can find out about it. And our upcoming programs are always listed at biseniorcenter.org/calendar. We've given you a lot of addresses there at the end. But again, thanks, Phil. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.